It's been a minute, and I wanted to share just an incredibly profound experience I had in the psilocybin journey a couple of weeks ago. And there were two really big takeaways that I wanted to share. One was that it was an ongoing validation and a visceral experience of how darkness is as much a part of consciousness as the light, and that we go through these contraction and expansions, just like the heart that's pumping. It's like contracting and expanding. It's like our breathing, we inhale and then we exhale. The universe is always, and nature is always contracting and expanding. So we go through these contractions, and it's part of the way consciousness experiences life and nature is we go into these contractions. We might feel darkness, sadness, fear, anger. And the more we can honor, the bigger the next expansion is. And so I got to viscerally experience that in this journey. And the second thing, which was incredible, was that whatever frequency we're at, and the more that we heal, the more that we clear, the higher our frequency, our vibrational frequency. And as our frequency rises, everything that comes from us, our words, our actions, our products, our creations, are all of that same frequency. So when I was in a contraction, in my darkness, in a low frequency, in a low vibrational state, I experienced competition and comparison and fear and anger, sadness. And when I was connected, and that was when I was disconnected from self in the contraction, when I was connected to divine self, like the highest self, everything, the words that came out of my mouth had such deep impact and breadth of impact that I got to viscerally experience for the first time in my life. And so I believe that's the path that I'm being led down, is that as I heal and clear, the things that come from me, the creations, the words, the things I'm guided to, will have that same vibrational frequency and will have that much more depth and breadth of impact. So let me share with you what the journey was all about. So I flew out for this one, and I was at an island, and I ended up taking a ferry to get to the island. And someone had suggested that getting off at port earlier and just walking a little bit longer, another mile to get to my destination. But what they didn't share with me, that I discovered the hard way, was there was no paved path between them. So I ended up lugging my suitcase through the sand in the woods in the middle of the day. Instead of taking half an hour, it took me an hour and a half. And by the time I got to the place we were having the retreat, I was drenched in sweat, pissed off, and exhausted. And the guides jokingly, like they gave me hugs and greeted me and jokingly said there was a trickster energy that seemed to be coming into my journey and beginning it the moment for that I arrived. And it only got worse from there. I think I've shared in previous videos, in groups, I tend to armor as a protective mechanism. So I disconnect from self and I disconnect from other. So it's really hard for me to connect with people and for people to connect with me. I always end up feeling excluded or dismissed or discounted or just unable to feel a sense of belonging, always awkward. And so this is something that I've been working through and trying to release, like the shadow or the shame and terror and fear or the sadness that was holding me back and keeping me in that armored state. And so that is what happened. I tried to connect with people, but I kept finding that I would trigger them or I would not feel that depth of connection. People were connected with each other. A lot of them already knew each other. And before I knew it, I was like comparing my room to the others and thinking it was much worse and that I didn't know anyone well and I wasn't good at making connections. And even though I had a couple of really amazing readings that I did, and my ability to do the readings has been deepening in terms of visuals and like the specificity. But despite that, the next day, people were going to the beach and they were going for walks and no one invited me. So I ended up being the only one at the house by myself. And I totally crumbled. I called my husband and I called my son and I was in tears. And I didn't want to be there. I wanted to leave because I feel like this isn't where I need to be. I don't belong here. It's a waste of my time and money. And I don't know why I bothered flying across all this way just to come here. And so I was in that state when I went into the journey. And I was shown the top of the mountain, like I describe sometimes, which is I experienced the vibrations moving through me as the shaman saying, and I experienced like the vibration of the music. I felt like an instrument first, the vibrations moving through me, and then I became the vibration. I became the music. Then I became like the waveform, like that was pulsing in all of like consciousness. And then I moved into pure stillness. So it was almost like I was going further and further into consciousness. But then, despite all of that, and then I felt depths of sadness. And I could feel the sadness like of my kids and people close to me, like my husband, close friends, family. And he was crushing the amount of sadness that I felt. And so I was experiencing all of this in the journey. But then at the end of the journey, unlike ever before, I came back to the state that I started in, which was angry, feeling excluded and disconnected. And I left and I didn't even want to connect with anyone. And I got a little bit of food and I didn't talk to anyone. I was feeling really disconnected and really like angry. I just ended up going back to my room, shutting the door and just like complaining. It's too hot. The pillows are too big and too hard. And the bed is too soft and it hurts my back. And there's too much heat. I don't have a window that I could open. It's trapped behind the bed. So there were all these things that I was like angry about, pissed off about, and just contracted. And so I went to sleep, like barely, slept and tossed and turned and woke up in the morning and realized like I am in the middle of a contraction. I know this. I know this. I don't know how to get out. And I've never been in this state where I'm in it after the journey. So let's just honor it. What the practice when I preach? Let's go take a shower. I took a shower and I was in the shower, I was like tuning into the body, like where do I feel it in my body? I could feel it in my chest, my like solar plexus, my gut. This area here was like in a lump in my throat. And what is it? And I started tuning in. It was like the comparison was like not being good enough, not feeling like I was enough or safe or loved. These things from childhood memories or experiences and so on. And then I just felt into it. And then I heard a voice say, "It's okay, baby." And it just broke me. That's what kind of the dam opened and I was just a flood of tears. And it was something about that allowed me to start to surrender to what it was that was moving through me. And I put on a dress and I said, okay, today I'm going to go to the beach. I'm not going to just stay holed up in the house. And as soon as I came out, I noticed it was pouring rain. I thought, of course, now I'm stuck in the house with these people. And so I came up the stairs and I was feeling a little bit anxious. What were people going to think? And I wasn't there all evening to socialize, interact with people like most people do, and everybody did. I could see that like the guys were checking in on me and people were like trying to make eye contact with me to see how I was doing and I was trying to avoid it. And finally I made contact with a couple of folks I chatted with and was sharing with the shaman that I feel like I'm back to being 6 years old. I'm in a fragment and I'm in a contraction and I'm not in a good place. And I'm just going to try to honor it. And then I started noticing like all of these little gestures. One woman came over and squeezed my shoulder and was checking in on me and sharing that she thought that like my ability to hold capacity for those around me was so beautiful, to feel their pain and to want to be there for them. And then I went to go get a cup of coffee and even the guy that was he's pouring it for me and I just nearly broke into tears because it felt like this beautiful act of love. It felt like love to me. And it was piercing this armor, this anger that I was trying to hang on to as this little kid. And it just pierced it. And I started to open. And the rest of the day was beautiful. I started to feel the connections and like tune into people. And there was affection and there was engagement and there was all of these beautiful things. When I came to the journey that evening, the second evening, I was feeling like I was rising from the darkness and into some light. And the intention I set was I'd like to rise divine. And the card that I picked was Aditya Hathor. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it's not just for me. I think it's for you. And the Aditya Hathor is a skull of a cow. And it symbols the moon around it. I could show it to you. Here, let me see if I can show it to you. Really beautiful image. Like, oh, see it? And then I'm going to read to you some of the parts of the message I think is particularly relevant. It's hidden blessings. Aditya Hathor. You have beautiful dreams and inspired, bold ambition. You are guided to believe they are a natural expression of your soul, something that is meant to be. Life will support you in the expression of those dreams and ambitions, even in the moments where it seems you are experiencing struggle rather than support. The process for transformation into full maturity involves learning how to grow through light and darkness and back to the light again. You will always find your way back to the light. Have faith in yourself and what must be. Dedicate yourself to what you love without hesitation. If you're experiencing loss or change, have faith. Sometimes things happen that seem to be working against us. It is only later that they show themselves to have been valuable ways by which we acquired the greater faith, courage, and determination that were necessary to the fulfillment of our purpose. Know that your destiny is uninformed. You are moving through circumstances that are ultimately going to help you become your soul in fullness and splendor. Keep going. Everything happening in your life is allowing you to fulfill your divine potential. Know that any darkness will give way to the light. And the last thing I'm going to share then is the healing process. So you can say this prayer out loud. I call upon the wild grace of the sacred feminine and give gratitude for your wise and loving assistance in my life. I accept your blessing to fulfill myself. I trust that you will show me the signs and improve and impress upon me the guidance that I need to feel reassured, focused, and committed. Help me and all beings fulfill the plan that Spirit intends for us and is placed in our hearts. Only the goodness of your wisdom prevails, and every darkness leads me into greater so be it. Now, they suggest spending a little time in nature, reflecting in nature to help you remember the cycle of life and have faith that the earth knows how to support life with brilliance and care. And here's a prayer, a short prayer to the soul. My dear soul, you know what you're doing, how to grow in harmony with divine genius and sacred purpose, even when conscious mind does not understand. When I do not know, so I choose to trust you. And this brings me peace and comfort now. I trust you. Place your hands in prayer at your heart and bow your head. Allow yourself to sense, feel, or intend to recognize the unlimited expression of love and spirit for you. It emanates all around you, towards you in all directions, and shines from within you, outwards in all directions. So much love, support, and light are bringing comfort and reassurance to you now. You have completed your healing process. So this was the card that I picked, and as soon as I got into the journey, I started to feel like the vibration moving through me, the exquisite sensations in the body. And then my body started to shake and really shake. And I put a bunch of shawls and blankets on, and I was still shaking. And then I experienced what I'm seeing now, which is like beautiful sunlight. And I felt like I couldn't even look up. It was so bright, so beautiful. And I looked down, I could see the warm sunshine falling on my body. And I felt all I could do was bow in humility to what felt like a higher power that I was witness to. Like beautiful, divine, feminine power that I was like feeling completely humbled and completely grateful for. And so I stayed in this place. And then the message that I got was, this is no power outside of you. This is you. This is within you. This is around you. This is you. And then what started to happen was I started to feel like divine feminine power, like beautiful, powerful energy, like starting to move through me. And like I could feel the vibrations. And the shaman stopped singing. Normally he would sing, and he started to play music that felt so aligned with what I was moving through. And so this music, like it started to come in, and I started to feel like this grandmotherly or like divine feminine energy. And she was sharing a story with her children, and they were like, everyone was asleep in the room except the shaman. And I was like sharing the story. My hands were starting to move as if telling a story around a campfire about the point of consciousness, how it's meant to experience itself, and like manifested all of these creations, us, to experience like all there is in all its forms. And that the point is to love, laugh, and play and experiment, and to just embrace all that life brings us, like as a gift, as a divine gift. And it was so sweet and so beautiful. Music that I was listening to was just divine, and it was moving through me, around me, transmitting like these messages. And then it started to move into like even more instrumental, like powerful, like sitars and guitars and instrumentals. And I started to move, and I could feel my energy expanding from within. And then the room activated. And it was like I was dancing, like full body movement. And like it looked like these like dance formations or like exquisite formations of the hands that looked like butterflies and birds and whatever. And it was like moving to the music and like feeling the vibrations moving through me. And then they showed me what joy felt like in my body, and every cell activated, like alive. It was like every cell was singing, dancing, and celebrating life. And I couldn't even contain it. It was, and then I felt like highly contagious laughter that made others laugh. And like, even when I got up and I was going to the restroom, it was like, I felt like I was like, I don't know, like an angel or an elf or like a fairy or something stepping on clouds and like full of mischief, like a desire to play with life. And I felt like I was traveling in these dimensions. When at one point, when everyone kind of went back to sleep, I was moving with this vibration. I felt like there was even a change in the color, like it was warm sunlight, the kind of a warm hue across the room. And I looked at the shaman, and he didn't make direct eye contact with me, but I felt like I was communicating with him. And I felt like we were bending reality. It was like, what was amazing was after the journey, he came up to me and he said that he felt like I was conducting the whole ceremony and telling him what songs to play. And he felt like we were bending the music. I thought it was fascinating how resonant it was to my experience and my thoughts. And then a song came on that I felt like my throat chakra was opening, like I wanted to sing, but open my voice and sing my truth. But I don't sing. As you can hear in my voice, I have like frog voice practically. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to sing in front of all these people. It was like inviting me to play and just try it. So I started to sing. The voice that came out of my mouth, it didn't sound like mine. It didn't feel like it had this vibrational. It was like when you have a really high quality mic, when you can just feel the reverberation of the sound from it, that kind of echoes out into the room. And it has that, I don't know, really crystal clear, high resonance or high quality to it. That's how my voice sounded. And afterwards, a couple people had said, like, one of the guides had said that I had such a beautiful singing voice. And one of the people in the room had said, you sounded like an angel. And I was like, I don't sing. I haven't ever really sang. And I don't. It's this really pure channel that felt like it was coming through. But it was like this divine feminine expressing herself in all of these ways, through the movement and through the tears and through the grace and through the singing. It was just the love that was outpouring from me, like to everyone. And then I would feel people's hearts. I would feel their pain and suffering. It would give like an ocean of tears, like the depths of sadness, to realize like the irony and the beauty of our suffering. When we're disconnected from ourselves and from the divine, we don't realize everything we seek is already here. The love, like the connection, the belonging, the grace, it's all already here within us, around us, through us. And so that's the beauty and the irony of what I was holding. And so I was experiencing such beauty. And towards the end, then they had this water blessing where they were asking each of us to say a word or a prayer or something that was coming to us. And then the thing that came to me like instinctively was like the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. And as soon as I said it, the two people next to me just burst into tears. And one of them said, that broke me. And that had that same vibrational quality, the sound. And I was wondering, like, what is going on? Anything that comes out of me is like such high frequency. And when the ceremony ended, I was walking up and I saw someone and I asked her how her journey was. And she said something about, I realized it's time to celebrate life. And I don't know, instinctively turned to her and put my hands on her face and said, it's time to celebrate you. And she's, yeah. And then immediately it struck her heart and she just started to cry. And then she wrapped her arms around me in this beautiful embrace. And it was so novel and so stunning. And I continued in the kitchen. And there was a guy that I connected with the previous day. And he'd said, I'm so confused and I don't know what to do. And instinctively, again, I heard this and it had that same vibration quality, the sound coming from my mouth, that it was from my voice. And I said, the unfamiliar, something like, being in the unfamiliar, being confused is actually the great unveiling mystery, like the manifest of your destiny, the co-creation of the future or something. I don't know what I said. And he put his hand on his heart and he just started to cry. And the evening like continued like that. And I've never, in or out of journey, in my day-to-day, ever experienced this level of connection from things that come out of me. When another woman came over, I just saw her as the pure embodiment of joy during the ceremony when she was dancing. And as soon as I saw her, I just embraced her in a hug and she just gave me this big bear hug. And she was like so happy, full of joy. Just these really beautiful connections. And before long, I was surrounded by a group of women actually, like wanting to hear about the journey and like wanting to hear about what my thoughts were on the darkness and like different questions about the future of the planet. And the shaman asked me to do a reading for them, which was absolutely stunning. And it showed me like how we're at the dawn of the new world. Presence. One of the greatest shows in the history of humankind. It is an amazing time to be. And since I've come back from the journey, it continued. I visited my parents. I was helping them move. And I noticed that when I was disconnected from self, there was fighting and tension and conflict and hostility. And then when I would listen to the music or I would take some deep breaths and connect to my heart, we would be like, I noticed my sister would be dancing. And then we were all dancing and singing and humming and resting and playing. And it was like a completely different world I was living in. And then again, I would disconnect and I would experience anger or conflict. And then again, I would connect and I would feel mischievous or like playfulness or joy or happiness, peace. And then when I came home with my husband, it was like at first, I think my vibrational frequency was too high and it was almost like repelled him. Maybe it brought too much stuff for him. So even though I had all this affection and all this love, he was like, I'm not feeling well. And like, I'm feeling really tired and I just need to sleep. And then when he woke up the next morning, I think maybe he'd either calibrated or released something and so much affection. And we've been together for 34 years. We've been married for 28. And we'd become polar opposites in our views. We don't even agree on death. And yet, despite in that polarity, that increasing polarity that we've experienced that we thought was going to distance us, ended up being the perfect design for both our individual and the collective evolution, is what I was told. And so what I started to experience was like, as I tune into the heart, as I clear the blocks, as I connect to self, divine self, my vulnerability, my fears, my hopes, and my dreams, my humanity, I'm able to connect with his. I can feel his tenderness and his fears, his dreams. And we can connect in our humanity. And despite those things at the surface, our beliefs and our differences, these are things that make us human. These are things that connect us so deep. So I was like in such deep connection with him, like feeling so much connection and love in ways that I've never experienced, didn't even know was possible. So all my relationships are shifting with myself first, and then with family and friends and clients and the things that are moving through me. One of the things they showed me in the journey was that we were instruments. My business partner and I have launched this company purely divinely inspired. And the entire design and development process has been divinely inspired. And we like run into these blocks that we typically would run into in the workplace. And then we are guided on how to release them and move the energy, heal the energy, and then get these intuitive insights about what's next on the path and for the platform. And then as clients would emerge, like we would be guided to like how to help them heal in ways that I've never experienced or tried, and see such incredible transformation to witness it. It's been such a gift, such an honor. And so I continue to surrender to this incredible, unveiling mystery, right? And thank you for joining the journey. Sending you light.